news when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Amy Morris. Kevin Warsh is now officially the 17th chair of the Federal Reserve, sworn in by Justice Clarence Thomas. Warsh takes over at a tense moment for the economy and the central bank. President Trump introduced Warsh.
Honestly, I really mean this. This is not said in any other way. I want Kevin to be totally independent. I want him to be independent and just do a great job. Don't look at me. Don't look at anybody. Just do your own thing and do a great job.
Warsh says he has a plan for how he will lead.
I intend to fill the role of chairman with energy and purpose, faithful to the mission and the very best traditions of the Fed. And while I'm not naive about the challenges we face, I believe, Mr. President, these years can bring unmatched prosperity that will raise living standards for Americans from all walks of life.
The leadership transition at the Fed is unusual. Outgoing Chair Jay Powell deciding to remain on the Board of Governors, citing ongoing legal threats against him and the central bank. Fed Governor Christopher Waller supports making it clear that the central bank's next interest rate move is just as likely to be an increase as a cut. Waller says he would not rule out a future rate hike if inflation doesn't start to slow soon, and that he would support removing the easing bias language in the policy statement.
If I believe inflation expectations start to become unanchored, I would not hesitate to support an increase in the target range for the federal funds rate. But at this point, that action seems to be premature.
Fed Governor Waller spoke at a conference in Frankfurt, Germany. And now bond traders are fully pricing in an interest rate hike this year, a sign of conviction in the market that incoming Chair Warsh will need to move quickly to fight inflation. It's a complete turnaround from a year before, when President Trump's selection of Warsh to lead the Fed inspired Wall Street to bet on several rate cuts this year. That changed after the U.S. and Israel attacked Iran in February. Secretary of State Marco Rubio says there was some progress during those talks with Iran amid uncertainty about whether a deal will be reached or war will resume. Rubio is in Sweden meeting with other NATO leaders, where he told reporters that President Trump has been feeling disappointment by NATO's lack of support for the U.S. in the conflict with Iran.
In the end, like any alliance, it has to be good for everyone who's involved. It has to be a clear understanding of what the expectations are. And so certainly we'll try to lay the groundwork for that.
A senior UAE official tells Agence France-Presse they think there is a 50-50 chance there could be a deal to free up the Strait of Hormuz. Hopes for a deal between the U.S. and Iran fueling Wall Street optimism, driving stocks toward their longest streak of weekly gains since December of 2023. And we check markets for you all day long here at Bloomberg. The S&P 500 up 0.6%, NASDAQ up 0.6%, the Dow up 0.8%, the 10-year Treasury yield at 4.57%, and the 2-year yield at 4.12%. WTI crude now at $97 a barrel, Brent crude just topping $103 a barrel. U.S. consumer sentiment fell in May to a record low, 44.8, because of the war with Iran, weaker than all projections in a Bloomberg survey of economists. The University of Michigan Consumer Sentiment Index shows cost of living also continues to be a concern, with 57% of consumers mentioning high prices are eroding their personal finances. Director of Consumer Surveys at the University of Michigan, Joanne Shu.
Consumers had already been feeling pretty negative about the impact of gas prices, the Iran war, but now they're really starting to worry that the pain of this is going to persist into the long run.
Director of Surveys Joanne Shu tells Bloomberg the last time they saw more than 50% of consumers worried that high prices were eating into their personal finances was during the Korean War. The head of the World Health Organization says the Ebola outbreak in Congo is spreading rapidly and poses a very high risk at the national level. The risk remains low at global levels. Congo Country Director for the Danish Refugee Council, Caitlin Brady.
So for at least 2 weeks, it would seem there were some cases, some deaths before the alert was raised and when health workers started dying. What we've seen now is a very rapid response by the government and also by the health agencies.
Caitlin Brady with the Danish Refugee Council on Bloomberg Daybreak Europe. The U.S. exit from the World Health Organization and cuts to foreign relief operations have reduced U.S. spending on Ebola-related aid, with estimates showing a decline from about $23 million in 2021 to about $186,000 last year. SpaceX delayed a critical test of its massive Starship rocket seconds before launch last night after a pin holding the tower arm in place failed to retract. From the company's South Texas launch facility called Starbase. The next launch window will open at 5:30 today, local time. That's news when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Amy Morris, and this is Bloomberg.